Hi there guys, I'm back with another video. Yes, I know, third one in a week, that's impressive for me. Gonna go over the Frontlines game mode. I'm also gonna put it at 2x speed because these matches can be very long. So, Frontline, what is it? It's an attack and defend game mode that takes place on a huge map. This is 9 times the size of your standard World of Tanks map. And it's 30 versus 30. So each team spawns 10 tanks in each of the 3 starting zones, and then of course they can go to and from each one to defend or attack. And then the attackers have to progress through each of the zones to get to a final set of objectives, which are 5 artillery style turrets that look a lot more like battleship turrets, and they have to destroy 3 of those. So, and of course the defenders have to stop them from doing that. There are respawns in this game mode, so everyone gets to respawn as many times as they want, but they can only respawn if they have a reinforcement tank available, which they get 1 of every 5 minutes, up to a maximum of 3, including the tank that they are driving. And if they get damaged, then there are also repair points that can be used once every 5 minutes. Now, I feel that this map has been very well designed overall. I don't feel like it's quite as limited in the corridors that you have in other maps. I do, from what I've heard from a couple of people, it sounds like Wargaming actually went to another group and got it kind of co-designed, so to speak. So they worked with another group to actually make this map. But I'm not 100% sure of that, so don't just kind of take that with a grain of salt. They also made it available for Tier 8 only. I'll get back to that in a second. The map, I feel, is very well designed. Feels much more open. You've got much more opportunity to make your way around the map and use different avenues of attack and defense, without any one spot being particularly overpowered, apart from one, but even then that's only this hill right here that only the attackers can use, and that's only to stop defenders flanking around to anyone who's trying to cap B from this side. That's the only use for it. It is ridiculously overpowered for that use, but that's the only use it has overall. So, Tier 8 only. Making this game mode Tier 8 only is one of the best decisions they could have made for it. Because originally, when this was on Sandbox, it was a Tier 10 only game mode, which was a horrendous idea because Tier 10 itself is not a very well balanced tier. For the most part, Tier 8 is balanced well between the tanks of the same tier. Of course, there are a couple of tanks that do stand out, but for the most part, tanks can at least, do something against one another, even if they're not fully upgraded. And another good thing about this being Tier 8 only is the fact that you can take your favorite Tier 8 premium tank and make a ton of credits with it. Now, you'll notice that you get different ranks up here, and this is going to be related to making credits a little bit. So, note that at this point in the replay, I've gone to the lieutenant rank, or lieutenant, however you feel like pronouncing it. You start off as a private, and the more damage, the more kills, the more assistance you do, and of course, capturing objectives, the higher the rank will get. Going from private to sergeant, to lieutenant, to captain, to major, to general. And generally you'll find you want to get at least to major to make a good number of credits. I found that with 50% booster running, if I got to Major, which would take roughly about an average of about 10,000 damage, a couple of kills, and maybe 1,000 assistance, which is quite easy to do in this game mode in most tanks. And if you got to Major, then you would generally get around, with a 50% booster, around 300 to 350,000 credits. That's just one booster. If you had clan boosters active, that might bump that up to about 400, maybe 450,000. If you got to General, you'd get closer to 500 to 600,000. And that's with a second 50% booster for the clan booster. Though I have seen that higher clan boosters can yield even more credits. I've seen people getting 800,000 credits in a single match on Frontline mode, which is fantastic. And that means that if you're low on credits, just make sure you take plenty of standard ammo. You don't want to be firing too much in the way of premium, and you can jump into a Frontline match and you can make a solid number of credits. Even in a decent result, you don't have to worry too much about getting an amazing result every single time, but you can still make quite a good number of credits. In my last stream yesterday, I actually made a solid 4 million in one night. That was from roughly 8 PM British time, GMT, or UTC, it's got two designations now. So that was from 8 PM to 11 PM for me. So 3 hours, well, actually 5 hours. And actually no, not even that, 3, sorry. It was 3 hours, sorry. In 3 hours I made 4 million credits. I'm pretty sure that if you play this even longer and you've got even better boosters and you get better results, you can make a solid, 7-8 million of this mode alone per day. Now, it's also very good for grinding your stock tier 8s, because, let's face it, with the current state of matchmaking, playing regular battles in a stock tier 8 is very painful, because you will quite often get tier 10. And let's face it, you do not want to get into that kind of situation in your tier 8s these days. So it's great for that as well. Now, I don't really have much in the way of downsides for this game mode. And definitely, it's one of the most relaxed game modes, and that's obviously not a negative. It's one of the most relaxing game modes in World of Tanks that I've ever played. The only other ones being, some of the, April Fool's ones. Yeah, and I would definitely say that for the most part, you'll not really get frustrated at this game mode. I definitely didn't. I think I only got one match that was particularly frustrating in any way, which was probably the worst possible scenario that you can ever get in this game mode, which was on every single zone. My team, in that particular match, they only sat in one very central area. They didn't move out anywhere. They didn't really try and go around any other part of the particular zone that they were in. And that's probably the worst case scenario, and is a tiny minority of matches. It's probably going to be like 1 in every something like 50 matches of Frontline, which is very, very rare. Most matches you'll find that most players on your team will try and move around a lot more so than in standard battles, which is quite weird, to be honest, because in standard battles people tend to play a lot more conservatively, much more passively, whereas in this, people tend to go ham quite a lot more, which is nice to see. I mean, at times it does get a little frustrating, because often you'll find that you get one player who's like, oh my god, an enemy tank must chase. And so, yeah. But overall, I've really enjoyed this game mode, and I can definitely recommend it to everyone. Personally, I found that I really enjoyed my T-44-100, go figure, but I also found that some tanks, like the Tiger II, become viable again. It's also nice to see that that Wargaming gave everyone a tier 8 tank, so then everyone can enjoy the game mode, which means that you have the widest possible, access to the game across the player base, which is fantastic. I mean, sure, you do see some silly things going on because of that, but still, it happens. Anyway, we're just coming to the end of this now, but I just think, sure, it's a short video compared to how long the match was actually going on for, but like I say, I ran this at 2 times speed, otherwise it would have been a very long video and I would have run out of things to say, because I'd rather keep things fairly concise overall and to the point. Anyway guys, this is coming to the end of the match now, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As you can see, this has been not a bad match, got to general. This match was around 13,000 damage and a couple of kills. I think it was 3 kills and about 3,000 assistance. And that's it. That's game. My team managed to destroy 3 of the artillery turrets at the end there. And we won. As you can see, we got to general as well. This match I made just under 500,000 credits, which was very, very nice. One thing I will also note before I end the video is that do not bother playing artillery in this game mode, for a couple of reasons. One, it's not particularly effective due to how the map is designed. You're quite likely to have tanks coming up where you might be setting up your artillery piece. Second, there are a lot of positions that you just won't be able to shoot. And 3, you could be in a tank where you could be exploiting an opening that you could go around and flank, when instead you're sitting in an artillery piece doing not very much apart from shooting once every 30 seconds. Yeah, there you go. Like, artillery is just not effective in this game mode for either attacking or defending. And even then, you're better, like, you'll find that the reserves that you can use in this mode, you do get reserves that you can use that give you artillery strikes, air strikes, it's like strafing runs from fighters, artillery strikes. You get smoke drops so you can get better concealment, things like that. You also get something called Inspire, which basically buffs yourself and friendly tanks. It basically buffs the crew skills by a bit. It's like having an extra set of vents, if that makes sense. But applied to an area where allied tanks that are within that area are affected by it. So that's my thoughts on this. I think it's been very well done. I like the fact that they brought in these reserves that people can use to maybe dig out people in a defensive position. Like, let's say there's a hull down T-32 that people are struggling to get around. You can use one of these artillery strikes to maybe pressure him a bit, and then, or distract him, so then you can get people around him to take him down. Things like that. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say. Leave your thoughts in the comments if you have played it. If you haven't, I would highly recommend you do, because honestly, I want this game mode to stay in this game permanently, and the only true downside that I have found to this game mode is that it's limited in what time of day you can play it. You can only play it between 5 PM Central European Time to midnight Central European Time. 7 hours. That's not enough. If they're going to limit the time that people can play it, at least start it at 12 noon, midday Central European Time, run it through till midnight Central European Time. That gives a greater number of people a chance to play it. Particularly when you consider that you have a couple of high-profile streamers and content creators. In this case, you've got the examples of Sir Fosh and Skill for LTU, who quite often stream before Frontline mode actually becomes active, which I think is a problem. Other than that, it's fantastic. I think it needs to stay in the game permanently. I think they should just keep it running after these 4 weeks where it is running are up. And maybe they could change about the XP earnings, because I don't think that they should have it as a purely better alternative for tier 8 tanks compared to normal games, because if they don't give it a proper downside to playing this game mode, then normal battles will kind of die out for tier 8, and everyone will just grind their tier 8s in this mode and then grind their credits in this mode, and then you'll have no tier 8 players at all. So that's probably my only thought on that. But yeah, like I say, leave your comments down below, and I'll catch you guys next time.